Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Voices of Forestry podcast. I'm your host, Seth Stevenson, the Communications Coordinator with the Arkansas Forestry Association. And this month, we are back yet again with another episode and another Voice of Forestry. This month, we're actually talking about urban forestry, so getting out of the woods just a smidge to talk about something a little different. But before we get into that and we introduce our guest for this month, we wanted to give a special shout out and a thank you to our sponsors, Davis DuBose Knight, Forestry, and Real Estate. We really appreciate their support. This is one of the many months that they supported this year, and we always appreciate their help in making this show possible. But we're going to hear a little bit more from them later on in the episode. For now, though, we are going to kick it over to our guest this month, Chrissy Kimbrough, the Urban and Community Forestry Coordinator with the Arkansas Department of Agriculture's Forestry Division. Chrissy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Seth. I appreciate the chance to come and talk.
Now, we had a little bit of a conversation beforehand, and I realized right as I started my intro that I didn't make sure that I had your title right, so I'm glad that it was before we hopped into this, and you had to immediately correct me. So, Chrissy, if you could tell us what exactly it is, give us, I guess, a little bit of your history and what it is that you do.
Right. I am the Urban and Community Forestry Program Coordinator for the Forestry Division, and what that entails is managing the urban program. And the Urban Forestry Program is a nationwide initiative through the USDA Forest Service. They fund the individual states to take the funding out into our communities and our states as our forest action plans dictate and under the guidance of our state foresters. So my history with the Forestry Division, I graduated with a forestry degree, 1999, Stephen F. Austin State University.
Shout out.
Axes are stronger than boll weevils. And I went and worked in corporate forestry for 3 years with Weyerhaeuser. 9/11 happened. I wanted to save the world, so I became a paramedic, went through some other careers, and then came full circle back to forestry in 1999. And I had been teaching for 11 years and went from the classroom when the school year ended on Friday to come and work for Forestry Division on the Tuesday after. And I was a county forester for 6 months before this position opened up. And so now I've been the urban forestry coordinator for about 3 years now.
Okay. And I guess what was it about the urban forestry position that kind of enticed you into moving over to this part of this sector of forestry, if you will?
One of the things, my family has always joked with me about jack of all trades, master of none, but the common underlying theme with all the careers I've had is that I love working with people and I love being out in nature and teaching people about nature and their civic responsibilities to the environment and how they can enjoy it and what it can provide for us. So one of the neat things about urban forestry, people ask you to come up with an elevator speech, if you will, about your job. And my elevator speech, if someone hops in the elevator with me and says, "What do you do?" Well, I manage the two most complex organisms on Earth and how they interact with each other, and it's trees and people. So that is what I love about urban forestry, is it's the chance to be able to work with people, engage with people more often than I'm engaging with chiggers and ticks when I'm crawling through cruising timber. You know, I loved that to an extent, but I feel a lot better about working with people and feel like I have more impact doing that than bidding on timber stands and writing management plans for individual tracts of timber. Okay. I feel like this was kind of my niche and where I feel like I can make an impact.
Okay, interesting. And how you described it was kind of that intermingling of the two most complex organisms on the planet is a very interesting way of thinking about urban forestry that I hadn't heard before. So I guess let's hop into it, if you will. If you could, what does it mean exactly when we're saying the term urban forestry? What does that mean exactly?
Right. So when you think about traditional forestry, what I thought about when I was working for Weyerhaeuser, what I thought about when I had acreage that we planted pine trees on, individual forestry, whether it's a large corporation like Weyerhaeuser or Georgia Pacific, they're planting trees for a specific purpose and a goal that entity has. Mm-hmm. And so if Seth goes and plants 80 acres, you're going to do pine trees if you want timber production. You're going to do a pine hardwood mix if you want to have aesthetic value and wildlife and things like that. When a city goes to plant trees, they're managing multiple goals and multiple benefits. And so for a city to plant trees, they're trying to benefit everyone from the toddlers in the preschools in their community to the elderly, the people who have a lot and the people who have very little. And one of the things with urban forestry is people hear the term urban. I heard the term urban and thought, oh, we're talking Little Rock, we're talking Fayetteville. No, we're talking DLAP, population under 300. We're talking our smallest Tree City, USA, which has a population of 26. So urban forestry is basically forestry on an individual level. It can be the one tree you have in your yard on a city block, and it can also be the trees that the city manages on public property. So when our county foresters go out and respond to landowner requests for technical assistance, we tell them to code their time, if you will. If they're dealing with a stand of timber, it's rural forestry. If they're dealing with a single tree issue in their yard, near their home, in town, something like that, it's going to fall under urban forestry.
Okay, interesting. So do you guys work with the city specifically, or are there individuals within the city that you work with? Or I guess, is it a mix of both?
It's a mix of both.
Okay.
So I might get a phone call from a business owner in Minton who wants to know what she can do to help get more trees planted in the downtown area where her storefront is. I might get a call from the mayor of Bentonville saying, we need a management plan to help us figure out what trees are going to take priority for our pruning regime this year. And then we might get a call from a tree board member in another city that says, hey, I've just taken on the role of chairperson and I have no idea how to continue applying for Tree City status, and I don't know what is involved with that and what we need to do. I just know I love trees and I want to get them planted. Yesterday, I took a call from a college student who wanted to find some way that his fraternity could help plant trees, but he didn't know where to start, what species, how to get the money to do that, who to talk to, where to plant them. We get a call from a teacher saying, hey, I've got some time to bring in a guest speaker. Can you come and talk about the benefits of trees to our students? So individual homeowners, landowners, citizens, mayors, tree boards, nonprofits.
So you're like, this might sound dumb, and forgive me, I don't want to undermine what it is you do, but it sounds like you're a tree guide for anyone in an urban setting, small or big.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I guess you mentioned though that there isn't one specific, I guess, goal in mind when it comes to urban forestry. So I guess what are some of the things that we're looking at? I don't want to say what's the main goal of urban forestry.
Right.
That was one of my questions, but there seems to be multiple goals involved. So what are some of those?
I think if you had to talk about the main goal of it, when you think of traditional forestry, you think about going out into the woods, going out into the forest. And one of the things with urban and community forestry is bringing the forest into the city, into the community setting. So when you talk about smaller goals, it's how do you do that as a homeowner? How do you help increase the green spaces around your home? What's the appropriate way to plant trees? What species do you want to plant? Hint, it's not Bradford pear. Where can I find those trees? When should I plant those trees? And then for the cities, it's how can we maximize our investment to get the most benefit from the trees? How can we fund doing the work that we want to do with trees? Because every city has a budget that they have to meet, and every city has people that hold them accountable for the dollars that they invest in those trees.
So when you're getting these phone calls, you mentioned a couple of different groups of people that you've recently got phone calls from. Are you getting those mostly from these individuals or private business owners, or are you getting them from like the bigger, or not bigger, but from city government folks? Is there one that kind of outweighs the other?
It's usually an individual. Even if it's the city, I don't get a bunch of mayors calling me. Yeah. It's usually your city advocates that will reach out and request help, or it's us reaching out to those. For instance, Arkadelphia, where I live, beautiful city. They have excellent tree cover. There are deer walking through my urban neighborhood right by the two universities all the time. They used to be a tree city. They're not anymore. So that is a personal goal for myself. Hey, the city where the urban and community forestry coordinator lives needs to be a tree city again. So it might be us reaching out to them saying, hey, we would love to help you earn this recognition again. So, Mr. Brinkley, if you're hearing this, I'm going to be calling you soon.
Just a heads up there. Just a heads up. So you've answered my next question, because it was going to be, is urban forestry something that landowners do or locals can do, or is it just mainly government? I guess I kind of want to still talk in that same vein of, is it something that local people can do? In your professional opinion, and I probably already know the answer, but I want to hear it if you don't mind. If I, a homeowner, was interested in planting trees, do you recommend that I reach out to someone like yourself, no matter where they live, before I just start going to Lowe's, finding something, digging a hole in the backyard and hucking it in there?
Right. If you've done your research, and you find reputable sites to help you with that, I'm sure that you would be capable of doing that. But we are here funded by your tax dollars to help you with that and to give you assistance with that. And another goal we have is kind of like with my 3 daughters, I'm teaching them things now that they won't need me to help them with later. And so one of the things we try to do, especially through the Tree City program, is give the city, give their tree board, give their local advocates the tools that they need and the education that they need so that they can carry on a sound urban forestry program without help from us.
Okay. All right. Well, Chrissy, we're getting into some of the program stuff that I want to talk more in detail about here in a second. But if you don't mind, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear a little bit more from our sponsors this month, Davis DuBose Knight Forestry and Real Estate. DDK proudly supports the AFA. In 1962, Mr. Jerry Davis started DDK with a core value of wanting to help forest landowners. With the professional services that DDK provides, they allow landowners to have complete confidence in their portfolio, knowing that their property is managed at the highest level from an expert team with years of experience. Give Davis DuBose Knight Forestry and Real Estate a call today and let them help you begin your land legacy. 501-219-8600 or visit them at forestryrealestate.com. Thank you once again to Davis DuBose Knight Forestry and Real Estate for their support of the show. So, Chrissy, you mentioned a couple of the programs that you as an urban forester work with, specifically here in Arkansas, but let's kind of back up a little bit before we get into those. What is it exactly that you're doing on a daily basis besides fielding phone calls from fraternities and businesses and local government?
All right. The nice thing about a daily basis for me is that what I love about it would drive some people crazy. Every day is different. But the main thing is to get an investment for those federal dollars that benefits Arkansas the best and brings the most benefit to our citizens and to our stakeholders.
So you mentioned Tree City, which I kind of want to talk about a little bit more, just what exactly that is, because I know people have seen the signs in various cities. I think I live in Conway, and I'm almost positive I've seen one in Conway. So what exactly does it mean for a city to be a tree city?
So going back to the daily basis, excuse me, Seth. One of our main focuses is the Tree City USA program, because what that does is it provides incentives to cities for implementing sound urban forestry management. So to become a Tree City USA, a city needs to document that they're spending $2 per capita on tree care, tree planting, tree management in their communities. And that can even include tree removals if you have invasives or trees that are a risk to the residents or to property. So $2 per capita. And then you have a tree board that is comprised of volunteers and paid staff sometimes that are making the decisions for the management of that community. And those are kind of the two main things that we look at for that. They also need to have a management plan that they're working on for their community, and they need to have an annual celebration of Arbor Day. And that doesn't always have to include planting a tree, but a lot of times it does. And so one of the ways that we incentivize that for communities is if they are working to become a Tree City USA, or if they have been a Tree City USA, we will provide a tree to them annually that they can plant for their Arbor Day celebration.
Okay.
And our county staff is excellent about coordinating the purchase and the delivery and assisting with planting those trees.
Okay. So seeing that sign or seeing that designation is a good sign, of course, that city is putting in the work, or at least the dollars, to try to be responsible when it comes to urban forestry.
Correct. And then the signage is a recognition, because people pulling into town recognize, oh, hey, I'm about to be spending my tourism dollars, or I'm going to be investing my money as a business owner or a homeowner in a community that values and prioritizes taking care of their community trees.
Okay.
And so that's an investment that can be valuable for a city beyond just having more green spaces. You're bringing in more tourism dollars. You're bringing in more economic benefits as far as business owners and homeowners that want to live there.
Living in the natural state, it's almost difficult not to be a city that values the green space and the forestry in your urban setting. Because it's there in the title. We live in this state that values nature and everything, every positive thing that it provides to us. So, Chrissy, I guess, are there any other programs that you guys are working on right now? I know y'all but y'all had a Free Tree Friday event where you're providing trees to various locals in communities.
Right. So one of our other main programs is getting trees out into the community, showing people how they can get them, the proper way to plant them, what species to select. So the Free Tree Friday program actually came about when COVID was going on, and nobody had been out and about. We used to hand out seedlings at public gatherings and events. And one of our county rangers, Troy Wood in Grant County, had mentioned, hey, it would be great if we could have another giveaway. Can we do one? And we started talking and came up with the Free Tree Friday program, and it was incredibly successful, and we're very proud of it. And so on Fridays, between the state's Arbor Day in March, which is the third Monday in March, and National Arbor Day, which is the last Friday in April, every Friday we would have a giveaway at different locations across the state. And this last year we handed out over 17,000 trees for that. So people could come and they could pick out 5 trees. They didn't have to sign something that said, I've taken these trees and I vow to care for them for the rest of my life, and that, if somebody from Oklahoma wanted to drive over from Broken Bow to come to DeQueen and pick up some seedlings, we're fine with that. Sorry, Mark Bays, I'm putting some Arkansas trees out there in Oklahoma, possibly. We prefer it to be just Arkansas people, but it was a come and get some free trees, and we had teachers that would come and get a few so their classes could work on planting them and see that. And so that was a chance, again, to get trees planted, but also to show the benefits of trees and to give people the chance that not everybody can go to their local nursery and purchase a 3-inch caliper $250 tree. And so this is a chance that you can get a few free trees, pot them up, grow them in a pot for a couple of years, and then plant them in your yard when they're larger. Or take one and stick it out in your yard right now and mark it off and watch it grow. We had several stories of people that brought young children and said, we're going to plant this and take a picture every year of the tree growing and our child growing. So that's really nice. And then we had other people that said, I want to get 5 oak trees because I'm trying to get some more deer in my backyard, and so they would plant those to bring wildlife in so that they could have the aesthetic value of watching deer in the backyard, or shooting them if they were hunters. That's fine too.
Yeah, it is Arkansas after all.
So. I'd rather you plant some oak trees than go buy a bag of deer cord, We also manage the Champion Tree program, which y'all are familiar with, you know, from the videos that you've put out on that. Harold Fisher is our partnership coordinator for urban forestry, and he takes charge of all the different species that we recognize in Arkansas for that, and they're the biggest trees, and that's a very scientific term, almost as scientific as the number that we use to rank them, and it's called the bigness index. So it's when you say the biggest tree, it could be short and wide, it could be really tall and not as large a diameter, and so we have a mathematical formula that we use to plug in the tree diameter and the tree height, the canopy spread, and put all those together to say this tree is bigger than any other tree of that species in Arkansas. And that tree is then recognized as Arkansas's champion tree. We used to recognize those with these massive rocks, boulders that had gorgeous plaques on them. And unfortunately, if you have the black walnut that is the champion tree this year, and then I have the one that is recognized next year because mine outranks yours in bigness index, our staff was having to go and move these boulders around. So we have been searching for a way to provide recognition that people can put in their yard, in their business, or just have to say, hey, I've got the champion bitternut hickory. And so we are now giving away yard signs, and we just completed or almost done with passing out the first 9 of those. The Cummings family in Nevada County was the first one to receive theirs, and they have a newly crowned champion bitternut hickory. And so Mr. Cummings said, yeah, I'll be your guinea pig for this. And we got his yard sign delivered to him in the last week or two, and he's got it on a stake out in front of his tree. So people driving by know, hey, this was the champion bitternut, and it has the date on it. So as of 2022. So if in 2023 Seth gets the champion bitternut hickory, Mr. Cummings still has his sign, and it's dated as to when it was, but you also have one that has the new year on it.
Okay.
So
awesome.
We're really proud of that. And then what we have gotten assistance from our marketing department with is they have made a story map of the different champion trees. So let's say you're going to take a weekend trip to Fayetteville with the family, and you want to take a route up there and a different route coming back, and you want to look at some really big trees on the way. You can go to our website and see where those trees are geographically across the state. And then when you hover over them, it gives you more information about if it's on public property, private property, if it's available for you to come and look at it, or things like that. Our tree cities are also available to look at online. You can go to Arbor Day Foundation's website and select Arkansas, and you can see all the tree cities in Arkansas. So you mentioned, hey, if I'm a homeowner and I want to do something, you know, let's say you live in a city that is not a Tree City USA, and you want to do something. You can go to the website, realize you're not one, and then you can reach out. You can come to us and say, hey, what are the first steps that I need to do to help my city become a tree city? You could go to your mayor and say, hey, this looks like an interesting recognition. I think we should go for it, and start working there, and then come and get assistance from us. And then our grants are another big thing. Part of our budget is pass-through grants, and so we can provide funding to nonprofits and to communities to implement projects that will further forest management in their communities and on the public spaces. So one of those grants every year goes to support the Arkansas Urban Forestry Council, and they are a valuable partner with us. They offer workshops. They host the Natural State Tree Climbing Championship every year. That is a chance for arborists to come together, and a lot of people think, oh, it's just a chance to watch a bunch of guys climb trees and throw ropes and lay down and things like that. But what it does is it celebrates safe work practices.
Gotcha.
And becoming more professional in their trade. And so that raises the benefits of becoming a certified arborist and doing your work safely, and it also puts that out there as a potential career too. That's in our state forest action plan, is that we want to increase careers in the area of urban forestry because the field is growing, and becoming a certified arborist is one of those jobs that would be great to get into.
Okay. All right. Wow. No, that's a lot of stuff that you guys are doing, a lot of stuff that you guys have on your plates. And I guess one thing, yes, is something you wanted to add?
Oh no, I was going to say one of the other ones, our Shade Trees on Playgrounds program, and those urban and community forestry grants. The application period is open right now. So if you are in a community and you're thinking, we really need to do some projects that would help with stormwater runoff, and I've got this great idea for a project we could do, we can help fund that with a 50-50 match. The link to the application and to different types of projects and how we rank the applications and the deadlines and everything are on our website.
Okay.
And our Shade Trees on Playgrounds program is another one that we're really proud of, and that one is about to kick off. Having been a teacher for 11 years, I know what those first couple of weeks of school are like. And so we wanted to let teachers kind of get settled into the classrooms and get their procedures down. But we're about to open up that application period. And schools can apply for the Shade Trees on Playgrounds program. And what we try to do is provide up to five large shade trees for a school campus that maybe doesn't have shade. And the program came about 20 years ago because we recognized that skin cancer is a real risk, and a lot of children get too much exposure to the sun when they're young. So if we can get some more shade out there on their playgrounds when they're playing outside, especially now, when they're just now getting to go back outside and play together on the playgrounds, we want to help out that way. And so we will select 10 schools for that, and that application is about to be live on our website as well.
Okay.
And
awesome.
The best time to plant trees in Arkansas is in the fall. So we try to do it where they have time to apply, and then we can still help them get those planted in October and November.
Okay, awesome. And we're going to try, we will make sure that we put the link to y'all's website. So if anybody is interested in some of these programs that Chrissy has mentioned, we'll make sure that we have a link in the description of this episode. That way you can easily access that and any of those applications if you are interested. So, and Chrissy, one other thing that I kind of wanted to talk to you about was that it seems that education plays a pretty big role in what you guys are doing, just educating folks to, hey, don't plant Bradford pears. So can you just talk a little bit about what exactly you guys are doing in an education, I guess in ways of education to make sure that people out there know what's okay to plant, when to plant, stuff like that?
The education side of it for us, we have different links, of course, on our website, and then supporting Arkansas Urban Forestry Council, they put on part of their grant agreement with us is that they will put on workshops to help people with things like planting native trees, the correct time of year to plant, how to prune. One of the things that's important to get out there is it's great to get trees in the ground, but the average lifespan of an urban tree, a tree planted in the urban setting, is only 7 years. So one of the things we try to advocate for is not only correctly planting them, but taking care of them afterwards. And so some non-formal education that both Harold and I do whenever we travel. For instance, at the hotel that I stayed at in an unnamed location in Arkansas a couple weekends ago, I noticed that their trees were large, very well established, but they still had guide wires around them, staking them down from when they were freshly planted, and they were starting to grow into the bark and rub the bark and cause damage. So much to my 14-year-old's dismay and embarrassing her, I went in and was chatting with the guy at the desk, and I said, hey, I'm going to leave my card, and if you could have the landscape or maintenance guy contact me, I've got some tips for helping these trees. Having the guide wires on them at that age is about like me making the 14-year-old still wear training diapers. It doesn't need it at that point, and so that would help it live longer. The volcano mulching, we'll take pictures whenever we're traveling. A lot of times a tree is planted and people just don't know, so they mound the mulch up against the trunk of the tree. That can kill it. It's kind of like if you were to wear a belt around your waist every day, it's going to eventually cause chafing and irritation. So you want to keep the mulch pulled back at the base of the tree where it's not touching it and damaging the bark. So just things like day-to-day contacts with people and getting out there, and in our programs like the Free Tree Friday and the Shade Trees on Playgrounds, we'll try to throw that education piece out there as well. When you think about 10 schools, if you have an average student population of 300 students at each one of those schools, that's 3,000 kids that are going to go home and take that information to their families. Hey, Dad, don't put the mulch around the tree that way. We learned from the forestry division not to do that. And then the teachers, too, and the faculty and staff that are there, taking that out into their communities. So just trying to help in every interaction that we have with the public.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I remember an instance. You and I and another one of my coworkers were out to lunch. It's been a couple months now, but it's got to be rough for you going around a city and seeing some of the things that they do to the trees, because you were very upset with the pruning that someone had done to a tree,
Yes.
and you were like, "We're trying to leave," and you're looking at it and talking about how bad it was. So that's almost like. I was in news for the longest time, and I have a hard time watching the news now because I'm nitpicky on all of the little things that wrong that they do in the news. So that's got to be rough for you going through a big city like Little Rock and seeing just atrocities from your field, I'm sure.
Right. And it's not that people are saying, oh, let me go and kill my crepe myrtles. You know, they just don't know. Hey, I'm going to top it because that's what my neighbor does every year. And that's what my parents did growing up. And they don't realize, you know, there's actually smaller varieties of crepe myrtle that you can plant that won't grow up too high. And they still have that beautiful branch structure that they're supposed to have. And they don't look like witches' fingers that are all gnarled over because you got 5 stems coming out of one branch. So, and I've actually taken pictures with my girls. There was one that somebody had topped outside of a gas station when we were traveling, and I just took a Sharpie on a piece of cardboard and said, "Don't do this, please," and had them hold it right beside the tree. Well, I put that on my personal Facebook page, but you know, how many people might have seen that and spread that word too? And, you know, it gets a little, you know, the laugh emoji and whatnot, but it's something that sticks in your brain, and then you carry it out and think about it next time.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm sure there's got to be at least one person that saw that and was like, wait, I'm not supposed to do that. And, you know, they at least do research and learn, you know, oh, this is what you're supposed to do. So there's a little bit of that non-formal education right there from you guys. So, Chrissy, as we start wrapping up here, one thing that I kind of want to talk to you about here real quick is, I guess, what is the benefit? What exactly is it that you're trying to do? When you mentioned earlier, you're trying to kind of have humans and nature live and coexist and in harmony, if you will. So I guess, what are some of the benefits of making sure that happens? What's some of the benefits that urban forestry provides?
So the benefit of having trees in the urban setting is multifaceted. You get the aesthetic benefit, of course. You have decreased energy costs and less impact on the environment when you have buildings that are shaded by trees, especially on the west side, and trees that shade the roof and windows where you're going to have heat coming in. Even as far as your homeless population, you know, there was something that really touched me the other day. You know, you see the homeless population sitting out in various places in a city. They're looking for shade because a shaded area can be 20 degrees cooler than asphalt or pavement. And so the more trees you have, the more chance you have for your community to have a place to go and rest and be cool. Not everybody can afford air conditioning. And so if the city places an emphasis on more trees, you have more shade. You might have seen a lot in the news about urban heat islands and what trees can do to mitigate that. And the more trees we have found that you get planted in an area, the less heat impact you have. So your urban heat islands are the areas where there's a lot of pavement, a lot of asphalt, and you actually have a lot higher temperatures there. You have more energy costs for air conditioning. And so you can actually find a benefit financially as well to planting trees. So not everybody says, oh, trees are great. Some people say, oh, a tree means it's going to bust up my sidewalk. It's going to mean that I have to go out and rake leaves on my time off. It means that I have to worry about limbs falling in Arkansas storms. So we can help our cities by investing dollars in trees planted in the right areas. And so if you've got somebody that doesn't want to rake leaves, see if you can help them find a tree that they can plant that doesn't provide that kind of a mess factor. Tree cover providing shade actually saves money on asphalt repair because it's shaded more. It doesn't deteriorate as quickly. Sidewalks getting broken up is a lot in part due to trees being planted too close to the sidewalk or not managing where the roots are going to go. There are things that you can do to help mitigate those costs. So what we like to get out there to cities is that you are going to get an economic benefit for investing in trees. Even if you don't see the aesthetic beauty, even if you don't recognize or want or place an emphasis on that, because we all have different goals, we all have different things that we find attractive or valuable, but there have been research studies that have shown for every dollar that a city invests in planting trees and managing and taking care of their urban trees, they get a $3 economic benefit from the things that I've just talked about. Decreased energy consumption, more tourism dollars, more businesses coming, more homeowners coming, property values. If you're a homeowner looking for a home to buy, the neighborhoods that have more tree cover, more shade, they're just more visually appealing, and you're going to have lower costs for having a home in that area than one that is void of trees, and it's going to have more resale value later. So there's economic and dollar benefits as well as the feel good. Oh, I love trees, they're great benefits.
So there's a lot to take in there. I mean, a lot of different things that I guess just doing a little bit of research, just looking into the information that you guys have or the information that's out there that can really help sell why urban forestry is an excellent thing. So Chrissy, before we wrap up here, the one thing I want to ask you is, what do you hope people, I guess, take away from not this conversation, or just what do you hope people understand about urban forestry, period?
It's twofold. First of all, I would like for people to understand that when they're busy and they're being asked to help donate time, or if they're on a city council and they're trying to spread those dollars out to the biggest benefit of their community, consider trees. It is an investment that will pay itself back, pay you back for your investment in it. And then also that you need to be able to maintain those trees. So it's not a one-time purchase, a one-time investment, either time or money. You need to keep them up. You're going to get a lot more benefit from the older, more mature, larger trees than from the smaller ones. So back to Seth wanting to plant a tree in your yard, go with the largest tree that you can afford to plant, because it's going to provide more benefits to you sooner and be a better investment. And the same thing to cities. We would rather see you invest in 2 or 3 larger trees than several smaller ones. But if smaller is all you can do, get some in the ground to get the city going on it.
There's just a little more time investment in making sure that it makes it to that larger stage to provide those extra benefits.
Correct. You can't just stick them in the ground and let them go.
Yeah.
You do need to invest in taking care of them, and we can help with that if it's an education piece. We can help with that if it's a funding piece. We can help you look for other ways to fund that or budget for that, or better ways to invest in that. So we would love to help with that.
Okay. Well, Chrissy, is there anything else you want to say or you'd like to add, or anything you want to talk about that I maybe forgot to mention before we kind of wrap things up here?
I could probably talk for days about it, because to me, it is the best part of forestry for me, is bringing it out to the communities. But I think we've covered all the main topics. If anybody has questions or wants to get into any of the specifics of what we've talked about, you'll have the link to our website, and both mine and Harold's email and phone number, contact information are on there.
Okay. And that's something that we tout a lot here on this show, is all it takes is a phone call or an email. You just got to reach out to people like Chrissy or like Harold who are more than willing to help guide you through this process of, whatever it is you're wanting to do. There are people out there that are willing to help, and they're the nicest people on earth. So Chrissy, thank you again for joining me today. We really appreciate you stopping by and talking to us about urban forestry.
Thank you, and thanks for helping get the word out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're here for. So I want to give a special shout out to our sponsors this month, Davis DuBose Knight Forestry and Real Estate. We really appreciate their support of the episode. And if you have more questions about what it is we do at the Arkansas Forestry Association, you can find us at arkforest.org. That's ARKFORESTS.org. And of course, cannot forget our wonderful musician friend, Rob McCormick / some guy named Rob. Thank you to him for the use of our theme song, The Same Love. That's off of his album, The Folkster. You can find more of his music on Spotify, and we'll, of course, have a link to his website in the description of this episode. So thank you for joining us this month. Join us next month when we'll have a new topic, a new discussion, and a new Voice of Forestry.